Capitol. Let's discuss this more. Joining me now is Democratic Representative Stacey Plaskett of the U.S. Virgin Islands. She recently served as a House impeachment manager in the case against the former president, and she's the new member of the House Ways and Means Committee. Representative Plaskett, good to see you this morning. Thank you for being here. All of this new information that we are getting shouldn't have fundamentally changed the presentation that you and your fellow House managers presented. You gave detailed information using video, using maps, using graphics, and talking about what people had already said. That said, now that the Senate didn't convict the former president of the United States, does this information and information you have suggest that there could be some other way of pursuing those involved in the breach on the Capitol?
First, it's so good to see you, Ali, and I'm so glad that you're in Birmingham, Alabama, lifting up the story of the civil rights struggle. And Virgin Islanders today are praying for the people of Texas and what is happening there, and I'm glad that everyone is seeing light on how climate change is affecting our country. As for what this new report is showing with regard to Roger Stone and other allies of the president, I think it's solidifying that, in fact, the president was, in fact, not only an instigator, but a planner of the attack on January 6th. I think it leads to other law enforcement agencies having additional support in making the case of what the president's involvement was. I'm really looking at what's happening in the District of Columbia with their law enforcement agencies and their attorney general looking into the incitement of violence by the president and his allies. And I'm hopeful that as Speaker Pelosi is putting together her commission that is going to look at the issues that not only the security issues related to January 6th, but what were the insidious motivations behind the attack on our Capitol.
There's interesting developments in the new charges that were laid against members of the Oath Keepers, a conspiracy theorist group involved with the insurrection. But what almost alarmed me more was the word from the Capitol Police about the number of Capitol Police who are under investigation for a role in either accommodating or supporting or maybe turning a blind eye to some of what was happening on January 6th. This is alarming because in many cases we saw some of these Capitol Police as absolute heroes. Some lost their lives. One lost their life in the moment. Two others took their lives afterwards. We saw their heroic acts, and yet there seem to be some in their ranks who may not be prioritizing the safety of the people inside the Capitol.
Well, Velshi, Ali, one of the things, my father was a New York City police officer for 30 years, and he says the thing that a good cop hates the most is a bad cop. We know that there were tremendous police officers that fought for 4 or 5 hours against these rioters, some who gave their lives, some who are going to be permanently maimed from the attack on January 6th. And of course, there are those individuals among those ranks who there are questions about what their involvement was, their accommodation, as you called it. Of course, we in Congress are dealing with that as well. Are there members of Congress who were instigators, who were supporters, who were encouragers of the riots? And we are going to have to, in all instances, root out the enemy within.
Representative Plaskett, you and your fellow impeachment managers gave it your all. It's not sure what you could have done to have convinced more Republican senators to vote for conviction. You also have in front of you a remarkably busy and big domestic policy agenda. So when you're talking to your constituents or others, when they say what happens now as it relates to the former president and these insurrectionists vis-a-vis the work that you have done in terms of this COVID-19 bill, the $1.9 trillion bill, minimum wage, employment assistance. How do you manage what an agenda looks like for the Democratic Congress?
I think the Democratic Congress is going to have to go big and going to have to go large. We are facing so much issues that were left by President Trump. His approach to how he was dealing with the pandemic has really just left us in a very dismal place. We have lost 1.4 million jobs here in the American economy, the countless lives that were lost, as well as small businesses and others that have had to close. And so that's why we're grateful that President Biden is not only being very disciplined about the health issues related to the pandemic, really rolling out a tremendous efforts that we're also doing here in the Virgin Islands for vaccination and testing. But more importantly, how are we also going to jumpstart our economy? We are going to pass this COVID pandemic bill. I'm working on the budget committee as well, and we have a huge markup coming this week where we're going to be working on that. But then afterwards, we're going to build back better. We're going to work on infrastructure. The new Democratic coalition is working with President Biden and his group and the Democratic caucus as a whole to how do we create jobs? How do we support our infrastructure? How do we jumpstart the American economy so that we can continue to be the innovators and to be the greatest economic force in the world?
How I will enjoy talking about infrastructure and climate and things like that in the coming years.
It's gonna be so
Representative, good to see you. Thank you very much.